So these people in the Ukraine actually took some time to do something that we used to think about doing as teenagers, high school students, and college students. And it was one of those fantasies you have in college when you're with your buddies that you never really do.
But
it sounds like it would be an awesome idea.
But Ukrainians had the guts to actually do it.
Details are scant thus far. The writer of this article used the word scant in the sentence. Authorities in the Ukraine say have foiled a plan to ship alcohol from Moldova to Ukraine. They were going to do it under the Dniester River.
Why are they shipping alcohol?
With a pipeline.
Oh,
they're made a booze pipeline.
Wow, talk about booze on the gun.
So it could cross the border. It must be illegal in Ukraine.
I'm wondering, because that'd be an awful lot of effort for
something
if you just go and buy.
Or
we could just go pick it up. Or maybe they're miners, right?
Or once again, they got really stoned and went, dude,
let's build an alcohol pipeline.
If we could turn the tap on whenever we wanted, booze.
And then heat the house if the other gas runs out.
Yeah, this is a smuggling thing, though. A lot of things coming in from Moldova.
So when you were in college, all you thought about is like, oh, if only we could
but
smuggle stuff.
we know how it is.
Let's
when
be
you're in college.
smugglers.
You have those fantasies about, hey, dude, if we sat here and we lived next to a liquor store, we'd never have to move. That kind of stuff, right?
I think that you're using fantasy, like in that statement, we is used loosely around those fantasies. I'm not sure how collectively shared those fantasies are, Bill.
Well,
I think you're revealing something very deep and
personal
right now.
Well, no, it's not about the booze. I mean, heck, when my wife and I went on our honeymoon to Jamaica, we were there for 10 straight days. And on the third day, we were having serious conversations about, I could make coconut boats too. And if we sold our house, we could live here like kings because everything is so cheap in Jamaica. So you could cut hair. I could live on the beach selling coconut boats to tourists. We'd make a fortune. We could live here. It was a very serious conversation.
Why didn't you?
For 5, because it wasn't real.
Well,
we had a life and a family.
Real. You would just have to live in Jamaica.
Right. We didn't do that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's also real to think of the idea that if you snuck across the way to the liquor store and put a pipe inside right to where their taps are, you could just go outside and drink from the tap that you have on the outside of the backside of the liquor store. I mean, it's just dumb things people think about. I'm not the only one who has dumb fantasies. He's just saying that because he doesn't remember. His drug use was widespread. Mine was just booze.
Welcome to the Bill and Jason Show. This is Bill. I'm Jason. And, but what you're getting at, like, you're talking about, like, the fantasy that you had in Jamaica is, like, the idea that you could move to your vacation. Yeah. Like, if we just did X and Y, then it would be effortless.
Yeah.
Which actually it wouldn't. You would be putting in the same amount of effort, only you would be down there, and you would actually have to, since you'd be part of that economy, then you'd have to figure out how to operate and live in that, right? Because like you wouldn't be earning there what you're earning here. Which is
but
like
we were sure that after selling our house and cars, we'd be moving down there like multi-millionaires.
Oh, that you would because you would have that to subsidize your coconut boat sales.
Well, you don't know. We spent a lot of money on coconut boats. Okay, those people are making a fortune off of us tourists.
But it's like, but do you get, did you ever get to, out of those fantasies or reflections of like something's missing from what you really want in life, and generally we have a tendency to want to think of like, if I have this fix, then I will be, then everything, then I can be okay with everything.
Right.
If I just have this one thing or fix this one thing. And that's like everything. Like you hear it in politics, you hear it in like across the board in marketing, fix this one thing and everything will be okay.
Right.
This one thing, but nobody ever realizes that behind the one thing is 100 other things that replace it.
And that's 22 years ago. And after 22 years, I can tell you that I get that we could have really done that. We could have. There's nothing in our way except for this story we had in our head that we couldn't really do that. So we put it out of our head. And you're right. There's all these things in the way of it. We couldn't leave from home. She'd lived too far away from her parents. What if I'm not a good coconut boat maker? All of those things.
All that rationalization is simply we don't really want to.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, that's That's very true. Because if we would have come to the conclusion that we really want to, and it wasn't just a let's pretend conversation, then we would find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, well, it's just like when I talked about moving us to Australia.
You and me.
Kelly and I moving my family to Australia to live and experience that. And you were like,
family?
"Don't go to Australia." You talked like I was moving next week. Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, it's not going to happen for a while."
I still do that.
And things like that. And so we got about like, well, organizing what would it take to actually do it. And
I spent a lot of time putting other obstacles in your way to be sure that you found a way to not do it.
Right, like showing me different parts of Prior Lake that are Australia-like.
Right, exactly. Or pictures of how spiders kill people in Australia every single day.
And how you use an Australian accent around me all the time, which is really weird now, but...
Oi.
Yeah.
Mate.
But anyway, so we got about to organizing ourselves to... with the initial plan to move. Although what's interesting is that through that process, I went from because the thing is to do that, then you have to organize like, well, how are we going to live? Do I want to live on the local economy? Like answering these questions, and it was like, no, I don't want to be dependent on the local economy of wherever I go or having to find a job. I want to move a business there, and so then I was going to. So that was part of the reason, other than that I love coaching, was like would make coaching made sense because I could do that globally,
right?
And then I was like, okay, so I'll have a practice where I will take on clients and I'll speak, and then that will make a great income for us. But then as I moved ahead and started doing that, I realized I want to build an organization. I want to actually build an organization that goes global. Well, that's going to take longer to do here before we can like move abroad.
Right.
If I'm going to move it abroad and start expanding it abroad, that became a whole different proposition, which has changed. But what hasn't changed is actually the preparation for being global mobile, which is kind of like shifting into a whole point of view kind of thing.
Great.
So we're basically in the process of getting rid of as much stuff as we can and not taking on more stuff or things that aren't meaningful to be able to be comfortable in a much smaller space. Because only here in the U.S., not only here, but like most places don't have the space that we have to spread out in and fill. And then once we, like this famous George Carlin skit, once you get more stuff, then you fill it up. And then you're like, well, we need bigger space. And then you get a bigger space. Then you need more stuff, right? To fill that space. And it's just like this never-ending cycle. But it speaks to like always asking yourself or being in the inquiry of like, well, what do we really want? And like out of that question where you were saying, oh, we should just pack up and move it to Jamaica, we could do this, is like to go further, because that happens all the time. But that's a symptom of I'm not fulfilling something that I really, really want. So the more times that you're in the inquiry of asking yourself, what is it that I really, really want? Like, what is the life that I really, really want? You know, because otherwise everything is just a fix, and then you'll just there'll be a new complaint that'll fill it.
Right.
And then you'll never actually, that never works, because there's never a limit to which your brain can produce problems and complaints to fulfill and do, versus like actually going like, really, what do we want and how do we really want to live, and working towards that. And what's amazing about like start working toward that question, the more that you do it, the clearer you really get on exactly fundamentally what you really, really want. That's unchanged, that doesn't change, that rather informs everything else, rather than everything informing like what you want or feel in the moment, being bounced around.
Well, and make it even more of a brain buster is and everything you're saying is completely valid. Everything that you're talking about, absolutely. But the truth of it, if you get right down to the brass tacks, is if you want to do something, if you want to live somewhere else, if you want something, sometimes it's a vicious circle getting into the conversation of, okay, I know what I want, so now how am I going to do it? And then I have to be sure all these things are in place before I can have it. Where the truth of it is if I wanted to live in Jamaica, I could just move to Jamaica and then work on living in Jamaica. Now, granted, it might not be that I like working on coconut boats, but if the want is I want to live in Jamaica, the more things I put in front of myself that this has to happen before I can live in Jamaica means that there'll always be another thing I put in front of myself. So I could just go there, have what I want. You can have what you want. I know as well. You know as well as I do that if you want, you put out there what you want, you reach out for what you want, the universe starts to line up to give you exactly what you want, right? Well, here we go. You want something? You want to live in Australia? Hey, I'm the first one to talk you out of going to Australia. I don't want my best friend living across the other side of the world.
Other side of the world.
Okay,
yeah.
but I also know that if that's what you really wanted today, nothing could stop you to keep you from being in Jamaica within a week. Jamaica.
See,
in Australia
see what you're doing it already. You're moving me to Jamaica.
So, your process will open up more avenues. The process you're talking about shows you the avenues and helps to create the plan. But once you have the avenue and the plan, then there's the action to move forward. And sometimes putting the action in front of figuring it out is the best way to go too.
Well, yeah, when you're speaking to like really trusting that whatever, like you just need to know the first action to take and then trust that whatever happens after that
right. Well, but we
will
always
inform
know
you as to what there is to do next.
Right. We always have an action for what we want. We're just unafraid. We're just always, but I can't have that first action until I have these other actions. And not that you shouldn't. But if you want to just be truthful with yourself, you don't have to have those other actions will have.
Well,
you can move to Australia tomorrow. I know for a fact you could.
Right.
Okay, you could get up and go, and you could be living there, and everything else would figure itself out.
Like your Jamaican conversation, I want to be able to live there a certain lifestyle, right? It's not just let's strap on the backpacks and go, like, come on, kids.
Right. But even that lifestyle,
over.
You'd be able to figure that lifestyle out even too when you get there. I'm not saying that one way is better than the other, but one of them gets you to Australia quicker. That's for sure.
That's true. But see but as we look deeper at like what we wanted, it got clearer that it wasn't just to be someplace else, right? So it's gotten clear on like. And since we want to have a certain lifestyle about how we live around the world,
right.
And then that requires more planning and preparation.
So I wonder
if it's like putting into motion planning and preparation. It's part of that getting clear on what we want. Like you're in Jamaica, it seemed impossible because you want to live the lifestyle you live here, there, only with more free time.
Right.
So which would actually reveal to you what you just want is more free time to be able to choose and play and things like that, which speaks more to how intentional you're being with your time at home, not going to some exotic place to live. But what a boring conversation about being intentional with my time at home. Oh my God. Snoresville, give me a break.
So is this a bit of a chicken and egg conversation?
Actually, well, not at all. It's like willing to be able to look at and get into the conversation of like, what do I really want here? Like, because these things start to reveal to you what you really want. Because everyone is always in that, it's this thing that is somehow like unanswerable. But what do I really want? It changes every day. Well, if you're bouncing around reacting to every circumstance, what you want is going to change.
Right.
Like, oh, I want food. I'm hungry. Where's food? I ate. Now what do I want? Oh, a nap. I want a nap. Where can I take a nap? Like just reacting to whatever circumstances, you're just going to be like completely reactive.
Right.
That's what separates us from the animals. The animals are reactive to their environment. We actually can generate and create our own space if we actually take the initiative to do so. Otherwise, we can go around reacting to our environment all we want. Most people do.
How is this speaking to you? I mean, really, how is this
being too deep and philosophical?
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think it can come down to the simple question that I'm going to ask you right now: is do you know what you want? I mean, really, like no kidding. I want blank. If you don't, and you're searching, how's your search going? How is that conversation happening for you? Are you the person that makes the choice and then figures it out? Are you the person who figures out what they want and then figures out how to get it before you go and get it? And how does it work for either one? For you, is there a right way or is it a wrong way? I don't know that there is. It really depends on your point of view, but we want to know what you think. So write it in the YouTube comments. Check us out on our podcast page, BillAndJasonShow.com. We would love to get more subscribers there. More subscribers we have, the more chance we have to keep this show going, because somebody might go, ooh, they're talking to more than 12 listeners.
Yes.
We're going to give you advertisers.
I'll add to that, actually. So if you want to have a method to dig in to try to uncover what it is you really want for your life, for this very conversation that we're having, I will just send us a message and I'll send you a list of questions, a worksheet for you to basically kind of sit and work through those questions.
You would do that.
I would do that.
Outstanding.
I'm going to do that.
Coming from him and thecoachinghour.com, that's quite a thing to get your hands on. So if you made it to the end of the podcast, guess what? You get something free.
That's right. That's
Awesome.
right. And now next week, since everyone will know what they want by the time next
Yes.
week's show comes
Yeah.
around. What we'll do next week is we're actually going to talk about how to stay motivated once you're actually going after what you want.
Love that. Love that. Hey, thanks again for watching the Bill and Jason Show. Bye.
Broadcasting from high atop planet Earth at a rate of 96 kilobytes sample per second over the interweb in an effort to stop glorifying being busy. This has been an entertainment experience production.